Welcome to Mystic John Paranormal, and today we're going to talk about the Spirit Box. Is it a ho-ho no or a ho-ho yo for Christmas? Yeah, well, that's corny, isn't it? But we had to do it. We're going in to the SB7 in particular, and we're going to look at whether we think it's a good purchase for Christmas or whether it's just one of those, we'll wait and see what the debunking community call it. As we go into a little bit of a delve into how it works, all the good points, the bad points, and those grey areas in the middle, there are lots of those indeed. And then we try and give you our thoughts on it, and then we'll give you a little bit of a guide as to how to use it if you're really intent on buying one. So, without further ado, let's go on with the SB7. Ho 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 yo or ho 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 no. And before we go there, let's just add, if you like what you're hearing, do like and subscribe. And there'll be lots more, including a lot of live chats as well, if you want to come in and join me on those. Community is growing, community is very, very interesting. Lots of nice people. And we'll go on with the SB7, shall we? So the SB7, what do the debunking community call it? The debunking community call it a broken radio. Is it a broken radio? Well, no, absolutely not. I tell you what, we can 100% agree on is this is a very good radio, a very good quality radio. And I say that for a reason. You'll need to know that later on. Do stay tuned, because this actually can be used as a damn good radio. Yes, AM, FM, very high quality sound that comes through it. You can actually hear the sounds and the words of the music and the commentators of the football match extremely well. Really good quality voice, which we need to know. So yeah, it's a really expensive radio. But it's extremely expensive radio. But it is actually a good radio. Is it broken? Well, maybe. You see, that's why we went into that one first, because now we have to look at how it works, or doesn't, as the case may be. You see, this starts off as a very good radio, and then what do? Then we break it. Yes, I am saying that. It is a broken radio, actually, because we take a good radio, then we break it. Why do we break it? We'll come into it a bit. How do we break it? Well, that's more simple. We tell the radio to go from frequency to frequency, jumping frequency every so much length of time. So it stands a length of time on a radio station, playing that radio station for only one or two words, then it goes through to the next radio frequency, skipping over white noise in the middle. So yeah, radio frequency, white noise, next radio frequency. There's no reason why there's any words in the middle of that white noise. It should be purely the white noise, and perhaps a little bit of fading out of words as we move away from the central frequency where the radio station is. So on the whole, words, white noise, words, white noise, onwards, and it goes round the frequency to the top, and then it starts again at the bottom and just goes round and round and round. So every so often, let's say a minute, you'll get the same radio frequency with the same person commentating the other night on the Manchester United game. So Manchester United, one or two words of that game all the way around. A minute later, one or two more words of it, and all the way around. So technically it is a broken radio. Now, why do we then do that into a very good radio, and why does it cost so much? Well, the cost I can't answer to, but certainly why do we do it? Well, white noise is for one, and the words are obviously the other. The white noise is important, right? So let's look at that first. There's 2 points here, words and the white noise. First of all, the white noise. Have you ever been told that when you sit by or stand by a waterfall, you listen to the nature's white noise, and you can hear words in that? Yeah, it's almost like somebody's whispering in the breeze, or whispering through the trees, rustling. Now that white noise as well, or the rustling of the water, splashing of the water. You can hear this white noise, but you can hear something over it, and it's almost like you can hear words. Think about it, and think about the distance between where you probably are and the waterfall. It's quite a distance. So can spirits bend sound? Very good point. I'll add something of my own. We did an investigation, and we had a camera very close to the kitchen door on purpose, near the kitchen door, making sure that if there are any sounds from the kitchen, I could time it with the second camera where I was sort of 35-40 meters away. And I asked if the spirits knew they were unalive. Obviously, that's the word we've got to use. We're on YouTube, don't want to get banned. So we asked the spirits if they're unalive. And on the recording that I played later on when I got back home, it sounded like it repeated unalive. Now, so I ask, are you unalive? It says unalive. So think of that what you can. But then I went to the first camera, and it was a plate dropping. Now, the sound and the second camera was a better quality one, 10 times better than the first one. So the first camera with a poorer quality, right next to the door, bang, that's a plate. Drop, bang, and rattle a little bit. When I listened to that sound 4, 5, 6 times on the second camera, it still sounded like a word. It really did. The first one, you could just about hear the drop of the plate, muffled. So the first sound had been muffled. And this is a better quality camera. The second one it just kept sounding like a word. You listen to it, once you've heard it, it's one of those you can't unhear. You're going to hear it, you're going to unhear it. And everybody that listened to it said, that's a word. The second one's certainly a word. Some people saying, I think the first is a thud. And they got it right. The first was a thud. It was a muffled thud. So, can spirits bend sound? Well, it may be true. But in both those cases, we've got meters, tens of meters, between the person listening to the whispering or the sound of somebody speaking and the source of the white noise. If I've got this here, white noise, my ear, there's not enough space there. I cannot believe that spirits would be able to bend sound in perhaps several inches to my ear, or to the microphone on the mobile phone, or on the laptop here. So I think the white noise, as far as hearing it being bent by spirits, is not going to work. There we are, the first negative of the day. So sound, white noise, fine. Let's talk about the words. Now, these words are very, very clear, very, very obvious. Now, one of the things that I've seen before is timing. Now, on one of the Debunkers channels, they were in the Ancient Ram Inn, and on the first floor, the back room is on the. It's got a window that looks out onto the street level, so the street level's one high. So they were in the other room, they asked a question, and they got the right number of syllables for an answer. It was almost like the spirits had answered, and they could hear it. They'd asked a question, they heard what sounded like a response. Think, wow, play it back on the camera. Yeah, that sounds like a response to me. But the guy went through and he looked through the curtains in the window, and there were kids shouting in the background, playing around. So they'd obviously shouted, knowing that the paranormal investigators are on the inside of this ramming as usual, and they probably thought it'd be really good fun. So it's a prank, it's fake. Or is it? You see, one of the things that I say is, and a lot of people say, spirits don't have time or space. And the interesting thing is, if they don't have time or space, they can quite easily know exactly what's happening in that next few seconds. Why can't they just know that you're going to ask this question? It's obvious what questions you're going through. I know what John's going to ask in that room. And there's the kids are wanting to play a prank. They're egging each other on to say something. Why don't they say something that's 3 syllables long, that's just going to sound spot on what John's wanting to hear. I ask a question, 2 seconds later they say something through the other window, just like what happened in the ancient Ramin, right? So just like that. And the response is amazing. It definitely matches the question. The syllables were right, the sounds were right. You can't hear the words. It's muffled through the next room and through the glass and outside into this street. But it's pretty much coincidental, isn't it? And is it coincidence? Well, people on my channel know what I think about coincidence. There's a lot of things that happen by coincidence. How many times have you thought, oh, God, that's coincidence, isn't it? I say that, and then all of a sudden that picture dropped on the floor. Is it coincidence? Well, a lot of us think that spirits can make coincidences happen. And I leave that one with you because that's one of those grey areas I am not going to get into. So I leave that one with you. Some people will be jumping up and down on the chair saying, don't be so stupid. And other people will be thinking, yeah, I can take that. I can absolutely take it. And it's up to you when thinking about the SB7. Is that what's happening? Going round. And the spirits know damn well you're going to ask a question, who's that person? And then it comes up with a name. Now, songs will have names in them many, many times, won't they? Commentators will mention, football commentators are always mentioning people's names. There's always names being mentioned. My co-presenter, Jane is about to take up the news. We're always talking names on the radio. So there's a good chance I ask for a name and it's going to give me one. But the number of times, coincidentally, that I've had this playing when somebody's asked me for proof by telling me the name of their long-lost grandfather, for instance, and they won't tell me the name. I ask them not to, and I turn on the box, and then they say, "I've just heard his name." The number of times that's happened, coincidentally, is amazing. And again, it's one of those coincidences, but is it really? That has to be up to you to decide. So the words part of it may work, but it can't be scientifically proven. And it really has to be up to you as to how you use it to see whether you can really, really take that as spirit or if it really is just coincidence. Who knows? It may actually be just coincidence after all. So they're the main reasons why we do white noise and the words mixed in. Now, obviously, we've said that the white noise here to here doesn't really work. So why should we be thinking of buying one? Well, we've used this and we've tested it with people asking questions, and we've recorded it. And there are certain things that come through that are rather odd. For instance, I've had swearing. We asked what the spirit world thought of someone's relative, and it started swearing the blue arse off it. And I'm thinking, radios do not swear. Radio stations will not swear. They're not allowed to. So where do the swear words come from? Because it ain't from the radio. So we're getting things through it and they do come through words wise that are just like, it can't happen. We've also had children on here at midnight, kid you not, asking for their dad, dad, and then a young lad shouting for his dad. A young girl was shouting for her mum. Now, midnight, it's after 9 o'clock. We're not allowed in England to have children on the radio after 9 o'clock, so it can't be live children because it's impossible. They're not allowed on. It could be a recorded sound of somebody's kids, but then let's say this goes round the frequencies every minute. It's going to go back to that same frequency every minute or so. Boom, boom. That person would have had to have played something that exactly matched the 1 minute 2 second cycle of this to the 1 minute 2 second cycle in that video of or recording of a child saying something, and every 1 minute and so many seconds he says, dad, Another 1 minute and so many seconds. Dad. Now, the coincidence of that is just ridiculously small. I mean, it's almost impossible. Plus, kids on radio at night, I don't think I've even ever heard a kid on the radio at night. You occasionally get these kids' records at Christmas. And then the record will have children on it. But it wasn't a record, it was a person speaking. So the chances of that, a child being on the radio at night, are very, very, very slim. So swearing, children on the radio at night, things that really shouldn't be coming from the radio at all. And then we want to look at this idea. Would take you to what I said about the radio being very, very clear. It is a very clear radio for a good purpose, for a good reason. The number of times we've heard, remember, you get a radio, white noise, and then a radio station. Another bit of white noise, another bit of radio station. Now, those two bits of white noise between three pieces of radio station, the number of times we've got a muffled voice over all the whole bit, including the two bits of white noise, just drowned out by this muffled, dark, deep voice the other night. And thinking, well, there's no reason why we've got a voice over that those two bits of white noise, because that's where it's increasing the frequency and just driving on to the next frequency where it stops a little bit and then drives on and stops again. You know, it's insane that it should suddenly put a deep voice in the middle of all these three frequencies. Plus, the voice quality that's coming out is pretty dull. And it was pretty deep. They wouldn't put somebody with that voice. They haven't got a radio voice. They wouldn't put them on because people would say you can only just hear what they're saying. You know, it's not like it's really clear like the radio does produce. It's a really dull, deep voice, and that's the other thing. When they come through, A, the voice isn't a radio voice. B, it's over the white noise. It's cutting over several different white noise patches and over two or three of the radio frequencies. Saying probably 1, 2, 3, well, usually 2 or 3 words. And all of a sudden, those 3 words will come through and you'll think, that's covered over three white noise or 2 white noise sections usually. It doesn't usually get as far as 3. 2 white noise sections. So the sound of it, dull, deep voice, doesn't match the radio quality. And the fact that it goes over the white noise doesn't match the fact that that's changing frequency. It shouldn't do it at all. So it's more likely that the radio works if it does, because it's going through frequencies. And they can work with frequencies. They absolutely work with frequencies. Anything that's just moving around frequency-wise, because they're sort of magnetic or electrical energy as we think they are, perhaps they can alter frequencies as they're changing, rather than one that's sat there on its Todd on what we've got a radio that produces white noise. Now that radio produces white noise, I've played with that for absolutely ages. Never got a word from it. Never ever got a word from just static. Why? Because there's no frequency to it. It's just something producing random white noise on this is on a walkie-talkie. So the walkie-talkie is on one frequency. It's playing white noise from that frequency. Bang! No frequency change. And I think that if there is a reason why this would work, it's because it alters the frequency and it's moving frequencies. And the white noise is because it's moving frequencies. So perhaps it would work in my eyes because of it. The white noise is not because it's trying to produce white noise. But that's realistically what people have done it for. You see, they've done it because they thought spirits can speak through white noise. However, I don't think that that's really the case, because I don't think that white noise. I've never had it work on my little handheld, and to be quite honest, it's not far enough away for them to be able to bend the sound from white noise. So I don't personally believe it is. If you think it can, then absolutely, there's enough white noise on there for them to speak through. But I think that it's more likely that they're speaking through the fact that it's a frequency change that just happens to have white noise in the middle, which they can sell as an idea. So that is where the box comes out on its own, because I find we've had lots of times on Mystic John Paranormal where we've done little lives and we've asked questions, and I always make sure that whoever wants me to ask a question doesn't tell me what the answer is. And we've had the answer through the box. We've had the answer through the box. And it's been in quite often one of these voices that are just not radio quality. So one of the good points there is that you can quite often recognize the difference between what appears to be a dulled voice that's not quite radio quality, and the radio quality one which comes through, which is absolutely crisp and clear, and certainly you're going to understand the music that comes through, because it sounds like, well, a snippet of music. So let's summarise, and then we'll continue with that little last piece that you really do need to see. Well, in summary, yeah, it is a broken radio. You are getting an awful lot of it. That is radio. And yes, you are going to get a lot of radio, and you are going to get a lot of words. And we'll just come to how you deal with that in the next section. Do stay tuned, because mainly the downside to this is a lot of it's radio. And, we can't prove that spirits can zoom through time and space and make sure that I ask the question dead on the time that hits a certain frequency, and happens to get the radio commentator saying somebody's just passed the ball and it's the name of the guy that you were wanting a response from. Coincidental? Well, probably, because we can't prove it isn't. Even if we don't believe in coincidences, we can't prove it. So we have to say no, because unfortunately lots of radio interference there, and lots of radio commentators and songs, very clear and obvious that they are indeed from the radio. And that's probably where I go on the good side, because we have the other side, the other bad bit, of course, which is the white noise. I don't think that really can be changed between here and my ear. The distance isn't really a lot. It's not big enough. Nature, waterfall meters away. My second camera, tens of meters away from the sound source. They're distance driven. This is not distance driven. That is not going to work with a white noise over such a short distance. Not changing the sound between there and here anyway. So they're the main downsides of this. Upside, hey, it's a really good radio. It's really expensive, but it's a really good radio. But on the contrary, one of the good things is you can tell that there are bits in here that are not radio, whether it be swearing, which just will not be on British radio. They would not would not allow it. Kids on radio at night, which is almost impossible unless it's unless kids are singing on a Christmas song, and just not words that you just wouldn't find on radio. Sometimes you get the words or the names of people you think, I can't even think who'd be on radio like that at this point in time. That word is very much odd. I mean, I've had words come through of people of Eastern Asian origin, and you're thinking, wow, that's a really unusual name, and that's the name that was actually apt for the location. And yet I'm thinking, oh, the devil did that one come out? So there are some times when words come out, you think, yeah, it could be coincidental. We've just happened to hit a radio station that said a really odd name. at that point in time, we wanted that very same name, absolutely. But the fact still is in there that there are words that are muffled, not quite of radio quality. So for me, the big plus is that we're getting apt names, apt words, apt 2 or 3 words linked together that mean something to the question we've just asked, and they're in a tone of voice that just aren't radio quality. And it's that not radio quality to me that says maybe, just maybe, it works and it's not just a broken radio. So let's just continue with that last section. Do hang on in there because it really is important. If you're going to use one, how do we make sure that we know what we're doing? Well, the other night I was in a graveyard doing a bit of a live, and I got Manchester score. Oh God, Manchester United, aren't they? You've got to know what's on the radio. Is it a football night? Are you on one of those frequencies where AM, FM, where you're going to get lots of football? Or are you on one of those frequencies where tonight it's mainly going to be Christmas music or Easter music or whatever? You need to know what's on. So at least then you're ready for certain names and certain types of music, or certain types of, yes, it's a goal coming through the radio. You also need to be aware of the clarity of the words coming through. It's very important that we mix. We see this mix of words that are mixed between radio quality words, which I said, very good quality words on that, and it's useful that it is, mixed with words that just aren't radio quality. And that is important, that we can pull out those words that are not radio quality as soon as they start. And the reason why I say as soon as they start, because you need to understand how long it's lasted. Because you need to know, well, it went over usually maximum 2 blasts of white noise. We missed 2 blasts of white noise there. Hang on, we missed 2 blasts. Why did we miss 2 blasts? We should have got 2 blasts of white noise. Now, some people would say, well, yeah, perhaps the radio stations have merged a little bit and the frequencies aren't quite right where you are. But if it is, it will constantly happen. So you could, it goes round about every 1 and a bit minutes there. So you could wait 1 minute and you'll keep missing 2 blasts of white noise every minute. It would happen every minute or so. But it would happen on a frequent number of events. Every 1 minute 10 seconds it misses 2. Every 1 minute 10 seconds it misses 2. So you're listening for words, and you're listening for words that aren't radio quality, and listen for words that are over those white noise segments. And as people who are trying to debunk me would say, try and make sure that it's not happening constantly. So you're not missing those that little bit of white noise every 70 seconds or 80 seconds, whatever you've got the sweep rate to. Which obviously matters. So you've got a sweep rate, it's taking you through every 1 minute 10 seconds. If it happens every 1 minute 10 seconds, it's not Spirit, it's the radio. And somehow two of those radio stations have started to merge a little bit in the middle, and you're not getting as much white noise as you expected. So yes, we do need to be aware that it could be just the radio and the radio stations merging. However, we need to also be aware of the type of sound that's coming through, and we need to be aware of where it sits between those blasts of white noise. Does it sit over them? If it does, absolutely. And apt words, like I said, swearing. For me, swearing is something that I very rarely get. But when you do get it, you get it quite often, and you're thinking, there's no reason. They won't play record. I mean, if you get swearing on records, you get they blank it out. They just won't do it. It's not something that radios will put on. So listen for inappropriate words. Absolutely brilliant. Listen for words being said that English radio just wouldn't put on, names, people's names who, maybe we're multicultural now, but maybe it's a 1 in a million chance that they're going to have a radio program about this person's name because they're from Guatemala or somewhere. It is, you're joking. It is actually a good point. You've got to think about what's on the radio at that time, and what's likely to be coming out. So always be aware of what's on that day. Sport radio is dreadful. I mean, football. If football's on, you're getting so many different types of name, and the chance of somebody asking you, "Can you tell me my uncle's name then to prove it works?" Well, there's tons of names coming out, and then another negative point there is, how many names will it take to get round to that one name that you've just said? I mean, it might say 40, 50 names in the, well, no, not that many people playing football, but it's certainly going to be blasting out tens of names. If there's 5, 6, 7 games going on, you could be getting dozens of names coming out of that box when football's on, and one of them could easily be the name of your uncle that you haven't told me the name of, and all of a sudden they say, "I've just heard my uncle's name." But it's a player from Walsall. That happens, unfortunately. So we do have to be aware of where they can come from. But on the whole, spirit boxes, SB7 in particular, is it a yo-yo-ho or a yo-yo-no? I come down on the yo-yo-ho. I think that this is probably something that can be used. I think that spirits have to become aware that they can use it safely, and I think that certain spirits warm up to the idea of using it. Is it a radio straight to the other world? No, because if it was, we'd all be using it. So why is it not? Because spirit world aren't really allowed to prove that they're here. So you'll only get it when they really, really think that saying something is going to be beneficial to keeping that person on their life track. So you may ask a question, and it's all for the good of you. If it is, they're not going to answer. You'll just get white noise constantly. And that's where I'm really coming from. Don't expect too much from it. If you do get one, it's not a godsend that you're going to get the other world on it. It really isn't. However, there are a lot of grey area pieces here that just say, is it coincidence? Maybe. However, the coincidences do tend to be rather frequent sometimes, and other times you get nothing. So use it very carefully. Do be aware of the downsides. It's very important. But for me, it's a yo-yo-ho. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe.